This bus driver slipped a note in a student's backpack and was shocked by the mom's reply. Working as a bus driver can be a tough gig. You spend your days shuttling kids to and from school, while sometimes having to deal with behavioral problems along the way. Not only are bus drivers responsible for keeping your children safe, but they also must take an active role in discipline and care. For Cindy Clausen, driving for the school system was a rewarding experience, especially when she saw students stepping up and helping their fellow peers. Two students made a huge impact on Cindy, and she felt their parents needed to know. Cindy knew all too well what it was like to be unwanted and a loner. She had quite the rebellious side growing up due to the lack of a good parental figure at home. While her mother, Sally, tried to do her best, she simply wasn't mother material. Sally's unpredictable nature would result in Cindy being shuffled from state to state and home to home. She'd eventually find herself in the foster care system, which would only enhance her bad behavior. Unable to adjust to her foster families, she found herself constantly alone. Sometimes she wondered if anyone would love her. The unstable environment of her home would create a domino effect in Cindy's life and impacted her ability to make any real connections with people. With no friends or a reliable adult, she was on the path to a really rough life down the road. However, to Cindy's surprise, she found herself being taken to a new home right as she was about to start her freshman year of high school. Nervous and worried about being rejected again, she cautiously approached the beautiful blue shingled home with her social worker. Cindy remembered the fear in the pit of her stomach. I'd been through so many homes at that point, I was just desperate for someone to truly want me. As they entered the house, Cindy was impressed by how cozy it was. She could tell this wasn't a normal foster home and was surprised to find the owner to be a sweet-looking elderly lady. It was in that moment Cindy's memory triggered and she realized this older woman was no stranger. It was her grandmother. Cindy's grandmother embraced her with tears in her eyes. She couldn't believe that after all these years apart, they were finally reunited. Cindy had last seen her grandmother many years prior, but when her mother Sally had decided to pack up in the middle of the night and take them across the country, they fell out of contact. According to Cindy's grandmother, she'd never given up hope in the situation. She constantly checked social services and was lucky enough to finally locate her. Now they could have a fresh start at a new life. Unfortunately, Cindy's life wasn't all that she thought it would be. She struggled in school, had no motivation to study, and was constantly acting out. It was at this time her grandmother discovered that she didn't know how to read. Realizing Cindy needed a serious intervention, she pulled her out of school to be homeschooled. At first, Cindy was very resentful for being pulled out of school. However, she soon learned to read and write and was able to catch up on her studies. Eventually, she returned to school and continued to excel among her peers. Sadly, on the final day of Cindy's senior year, she came home to find that her grandmother had passed away. It was a terrible moment in her life, but she knew that she wanted to continue to make her grandmother proud. After high school, Cindy decided to begin training to become a bus driver. School had been a refuge in those final years and had helped her become the woman she was. Now she wanted to continue to be involved and a positive influence on future students. Despite the negative situations that shaped Cindy's past, she always found a light with the students she drove to and from school. Two particular students were her favorites because they always befriended a lonely student named Jackson on the bus. Impressed by the children's selflessness and kindness, she decided to write a letter to one of their parents to let them know what a wonderful child they had. She wanted to thank them for raising such rays of light. I am compelled to write you to tell you how beautiful your children are inside and out. This can only come from the home, your patience and guidance, the examples that you set and teach, Cindy wrote. I have a child on my bus named Jackson. Both of your children have shown him compassion and support. Every day your children ask if they can sit with Jackson. Sometimes Jackson is a little sad getting on the bus, but as soon as he sees Annalise and George, he smiles. Jackson has difficulties walking and it takes a bit for him to get to his seat. Today, Annalise looked out from around her and said, "Come on, Jackson, you can do it." Cindy continued her letter by stating, "And when we arrived at school, George took it upon himself to carry his backpack. I know you know how wonderful your children are, but I wanted you to know that it shows." To say George and Leonore, the children's parents, were shocked would be an understatement. "We would never have expected our child's bus driver to recognize them for their good deeds," said George Sr. "It makes us feel wonderful knowing our kids are talking what we taught them and being kind to their peers." After George's parents shared the bus driver's note, it took off on social media. People praised Cindy's recognition of the students, as well as the students' wonderful actions. With so much division happening in the world today, it was great to see people looking to unify rather than divide. Cindy Clausen is just one bus driver out of many, but her act of kindness and recognizing her students' care for their fellow peers is a step above the rest. It goes to show how a positive action can make a difference. We hope more people take up the mantle of positivity, especially in these turbulent times.